In my last video, I showed how the so-called Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, became judge, jury, and executioner when he bombed fishing boats alleged to have drugs and smugglers on board. It was reported that some of these boats were double-tapped, meaning it was initially hit by missiles, then hit again, at least 4 times, allegedly to make sure no one was left alive. The president had to have known what he was doing, making him complicit, which made me wonder, what other presidents were complicit in war crimes throughout U.S. history? War crimes are prohibited under international humanitarian law, primarily codified in the Geneva Conventions, the Hague Conventions, and the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. These laws criminalize acts such as targeting civilians, torture, hostage-taking, and destruction of civilian property. The Geneva Conventions of 1949 and additional protocols establish rules for humane treatment of civilians, prisoners of war, and wounded combatants, prohibit murder, torture, degrading treatment, and attacks on non-combatants. Enter the presidents of the United States. In international law, under the doctrine of command responsibility, leaders can be held liable for war crimes committed by their subordinates if they ordered the crimes, they knew or should have known about them, and they failed to prevent or punish them. This principle was established during the Nuremberg trials and reinforced in later tribunals, such as Yugoslavia and Rwanda. As such, most, if not all, U.S. presidents have, in one way or another, been involved in alleged war crimes. Because of the time factor, here are just 5 of these presidents and their deeds. This is, by no means, a complete list. Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton's presidency, 1993 to 2001, has been criticized for military actions and foreign policy decisions that some scholars, activists, and political opponents argue amounted to violations of international law. The strongest criticisms focus on the 1999 NATO bombing of Yugoslavia, the Sudan factory strike, and Iraq sanctions and airstrikes. These remain contested legacies of his presidency. The NATO bombing of Yugoslavia, 1999. During the Kosovo War, NATO forces, under U.S. leadership, bombed Serbia and Montenegro without explicit UN Security Council or congressional authorization. Civilian infrastructure was hit, bridges, factories, media stations, causing hundreds of civilian deaths. The sanctions and bombings in Iraq. Clinton continued strict sanctions against Iraq, which critics say contributed to the humanitarian crises. U.S. and U.K. forces carried out repeated airstrikes in Operation Desert Fox against Saddam Hussein's regime. These actions violated sovereignty and disproportionately harmed civilians. Somalia. U.S. forces were involved in operations in Somalia, including the infamous Black Hawk Down incident in Mogadishu. Civilian casualties and the chaotic withdrawal raised questions about U.S. conduct. The Sudan pharmaceutical factory bombing. After the U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania were bombed by Al-Qaeda, Clinton ordered a missile strike on the Al-Shifa pharmaceutical plant in Sudan, claiming it was linked to chemical weapons. Later evidence suggested it was a civilian facility producing medicine. This was a war crime due to civilian harm. Clinton has never faced charges in international or national courts. George W. Bush. George W. Bush's presidency, 2001 to 2009, is one of the most heavily scrutinized in modern history, especially regarding war crimes allegations tied to the so-called War on Terror. While he has never been formally charged with war crimes, his administration's actions in Afghanistan, Iraq, and beyond have been widely criticized as violations of international law. Iraq War, 2003. The Iraq War was launched without explicit UN Security Council or U.S. congressional authorization, It was justified by claims of weapons of mass destruction that were never found. This constituted a war of aggression, which is considered a crime under international law. Civilian casualties from bombings, sanctions, and occupation are estimated in the hundreds of thousands. Torture and detention policies. U.S. forces used enhanced interrogation techniques, waterboarding, stress positions, sleep deprivation, at sites like Abu Ghraib and Guantanamo Bay. International law and the Geneva Conventions classify torture as a war crime. Bush officials defended these practices as legal, but human rights groups and later investigations condemned them. Extraordinary rendition. Suspected terrorists were secretly transferred to countries known to use torture. This policy bypassed legal protections and has been described as complicity in torture. Civilian casualties in Afghanistan. Airstrikes and drone operations killed large numbers of civilians. Human rights groups argue the rules of engagement often disregarded proportionality and distinction, key principles of international humanitarian law. George W. Bush has never faced charges in international or national courts. Barack Obama. Barack Obama's presidency has been often criticized for military actions, especially the drone strike program, the Libya intervention, and ongoing wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, that some scholars, journalists, and activists argue violated international law and humanitarian norms. Obama dramatically expanded the use of drones in Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia, Afghanistan, and elsewhere. Reports estimate thousands of civilian deaths, including strikes on weddings, funerals, and hospitals. The administration maintained a secret kill list, which included suspected terrorists, even U.S. citizens. NATO, led by the U.S., bombed Libya to oust Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. Critics argue the intervention exceeded the UN mandate, protecting civilians, and destabilized Libya, leading to civil war, an open market slave trade, and ongoing chaos. Obama campaigned on ending the wars, but escalated U.S. involvement in Afghanistan with a troop surge. Airstrikes and raids continued to cause civilian casualties. Obama pledged to close the detention facility at Guantanamo Bay, but failed. Detainees remained imprisoned without trial, raising accusations of complicity in human rights violations. Barack Obama's legacy is deeply contested. A Nobel Peace Prize laureate who presided over continuous war. He has never faced prosecution in any U.S. or international courts. Joe Biden. Joe Biden's administration has faced serious allegations of complicity in war crimes and genocide in Gaza due to U.S. military and diplomatic support for Israel. Several human rights organizations have petitioned the International Criminal Court to investigate Biden and senior officials for aiding and abetting violations of international law. Support for Israel during Gaza War, 2023 to 2025. Biden, Secretary of State Antony Blinken, and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin provided Israel with billions of dollars in weapons transfers and diplomatic backing. Critics argue this facilitated Israeli attacks on civilians, destruction of infrastructure, and deprivation of essential supplies in Gaza. Organizations like DAWN, Democracy for the Arab World Now, and the Center for Constitutional Rights have formally asked the ICC to investigate Biden and other officials for aiding and abetting war crimes and genocide. A U.S. federal case alleging complicity in genocide was dismissed in 2024, but on jurisdictional grounds, not on the merits. Reports cite $17.9 billion in U.S. weapons sales to Israel during Biden's presidency, which critics say directly contributed to civilian deaths. Supporters argue U.S. backing of Israel is strategic and defensive. Critics say it makes Biden complicit in atrocities. Legal debate. The ICC has jurisdiction over war crimes and crimes against humanity, but prosecuting a sitting or former U.S. president would be unprecedented. The strongest allegations focus on his administration's support for Israel in Gaza, with petitions urging the ICC to investigate him for complicity in genocide and crimes against humanity. He has never faced prosecution in any U.S. or international courts. Donald Trump. Donald Trump's presidency has been the subject of serious allegations and criticisms from human rights groups, legal scholars, and political opponents. These allegations focus on U.S. military actions, arms sales, and policies that critics argue violated international law. President Trump has expanded the use of airstrikes and drone warfare in Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, and Somalia.
He made clear yesterday that he does not want them to live on the earth anymore.
Human rights groups documented significant civilian casualties, raising questions about proportionality and compliance with the Geneva Conventions. Trump approved billions in arms sales to Saudi Arabia and the UAE, despite evidence of war crimes in Yemen's civil war, bombing of hospitals, schools, and civilian areas. Critics argue this made the U.S. complicit in atrocities carried out without congressional approval and outside a declared war zone. President Trump ordered the targeted killing of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. This violated international law prohibiting extrajudicial killings. As of the writing of this video, the White House has demanded that the International Criminal Court, the ICC, pledge not to prosecute Donald Trump. Despite this, and just like his predecessors, President Trump has not been indicted by the International Criminal Court or any tribunal. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you believe U.S. presidents are working under the rule of law in bombing various nations? Or do you believe that no matter who is president of the United States, they get their marching orders from elsewhere and deliberately skirt international law, no matter the consequences? And remember, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.